Lead Well, Live Whole, the podcast where leadership meets life. Your host, Michael Sirmon, is here to help you rise above the noise, lead with purpose, and live with clarity. Let's get to it.
Welcome back to Lead Well, Live Whole, where we explore leadership that's more than strategy and performance. It's about soul, it's about rhythm, it's about real life. Today's episode is one that we all need to keep in our back pocket. It's when the encourager needs encouragement. So today we're going to talk about something that we often skip over whenever anybody teaches on encouragement, and that is what happens when you're the one who's running on empty. Because encouragers, whether they're coaches, pastors, parents, mentors, or leaders, you know what? We're usually the first to pour out and the absolute last to get refilled. We know how to give strength, but we're far less practiced at receiving it. And here's the truth that I've had to learn the hard way, that encouragers, we need encouragement as well. Now, today we're joined again by my beautiful wife, Tammy.
It's wonderful to be here.
We had a great time with her last week. There's some really good feedback, and actually got some feedback from folks that normally aren't part of the demographic that likes to respond. So I was already planning on having her back anyway, but it was even more exciting, right, when she agreed that she would come on and do it. And then we had so much fun last week that we decided that we're going to, actually not we have decided we're going to, we have launched a new joint podcast. So while this one is focused on leadership, that one was actually just about life. Yeah, it's about our 38 years of experience and the things we have learned, right? Just talking through some of those. And as I said in our recording earlier today, we're going to talk about where the bug meets the windshield. So, so we're looking forward to that. And that's called Every Mile with You. So
yes.
Be looking for it. It'll come out in the next couple of weeks.
Yes, we're really excited, and we hope you'll join us. It's more personal, heart-to-heart conversation about every area of life, basically. Just whatever happens to come up on topic. It's unscripted and straight from the heart, and we hope that you guys will go out of your way to enjoy the love that is poured into it, because we're hoping to be a blessing to you, just like you guys are a blessing to us.
And by unscripted, we mean unscripted. And
from the dog barking in the background to squeaky chairs.
Yeah, the episode we recorded earlier today, we thought was a really good episode until we went back to listen to it, and the sound was atrocious.
It was atrocious.
So we had to re-record, and it was nothing like the first one.
Nothing.
It was completely different direction, completely different focus. And I think it was far better. I think far more impactful. And it was really kind of good because last week when we were at the end of the episode here, I believe, Tammy wanted to jump into, okay, what about when you're dry? What about when you need encouragement? And I said, no, we're going to hold off. We're going to talk about that this week. I think that when we recorded that earlier today, there was actually a refilling, right? I felt, one, I wanted to do it, but I felt more encouraged after we recorded that.
Even the first one or the second one?
Both of them.
Both,
right?
Yes.
Even though we haven't published it anywhere, when nobody has seen it and we got no feedback from it.
Right.
I actually felt encouraged after we got it done, right? And I think that's the danger of being an encourager, is we get caught up in the doing, right? And the giving, right? We're the you know, as leaders, as whoever, we're the first ones to want to give. We want to pour out, we want to pour out, we want to pour out, we want to pour out. And it feels really good while we're doing that.
Right.
But it's still taking a toll on us, right? It's still drying us up in certain areas because there's only so much of that in there you can do. And we may have tapped into a different reservoir than we normally tap into on these type of programs, but it's still finite, right? It's going to come in the end if we're not careful. And it goes straight with what we're talking about on the Lead Well program here today, because you will eventually run empty.
That's right.
And what happens when you're the one who's running empty? Because everybody's used to drawing from you.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody is used to you being the strength, you being the power, you being the voice, you being all of this that's driving. And I've known in running plants and different things over the years, and just teams in general. Ideally, you want to kickstart the team so that it generates its own energy and starts generating its own momentum, and it's not only happening by your energy of pushing it. All right. I remember Eric several times I'd come home and he was like, "Hey, what did you do all day?" I told him what I did. He said, "So all you did all day was walk around and talk to people?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, yes and no. Yes, it was talking to people, but it wasn't talking to people. It was pouring out into those people, right? And
Into them, yes.
yeah, pouring into them in love, and sometimes out of frustration and anger, right? But just pouring and trying to get that energy into it to get something to start moving and start hoping to pick up that momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did a good job building your team, then typically you would have your supervisor, you would come alongside and they would catch the vision and then they would start getting into it. But when you didn't have that available, or when you were just trying to get them moving and you didn't do enough front end work, then it all became just about your energy.
Right.
And when you walked away, right? Someone was pastor, someone was it was mayor. If it was all about what you were pushing into it,
right,
you left and you were just drained.
Of course. Yeah.
And it may say, well, you're just talking, but you're not just talking.
No.
You're developing and you're creating a vision and you're casting the vision and you're giving life to the vision and right and all of these things. Well, we do that all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And we get so caught up in the rhythm that we don't realize that we're depleted.
Right. And I don't know how many leaders that you work with daily, but most people that work with you probably would describe you as a very charismatic person. You have a very magnetic personality, and so people are apt to be drawn to you and the energy that you bring to the table or to a meeting. And it's wonderful. I know I thrive best whenever I'm around a large group of women and we're able to share one-on-one and just share life experiences, mentoring and things of that nature. I draw strength from them, but yet I know that I'm pouring out as well. But there can come a time whenever, through whatever is going on in your life, whether it is the circumstances at work, whether it's your what's ever happening at home. A lot of times it's just things that we're warring with within ourselves, or struggles with our churches or organizations that we're involved in. A lot of times we can also overload ourselves and just get too much on our plates, and you can only give so much. You can we're not like Jesus, who was able to feed the thousands with the fish's loaves. We run dry, and that's why it's extremely important that when we find ourselves doing that we run back to the well. And who is the well?
Yeah.
Jesus is our well. Yeah, and he is the one that will fill us.
That's a good point. So as a leader, though, how do you know if your team is only operating because you're pouring into them, or if your team's actually starting to take on it? I mean, what's a good indicator that is all about you, right, and your energy and your whatever?
Well, it's through the output, through what you see, through the efforts of your team. If you see your team is really starting to drag and slag and not perform in the way and not come together, is what I like to refer to. When I think of a team, when I think of a workforce, I think of it as a team, because you can't do anything if everyone is each doing their own individual thing. So to me, a company should always be about a team. And I don't even look at it as a team. I look at it as a work family. I've always had that mentality. And so, but, you know, they are only going to be as strong as their leader. And so when you start seeing the efforts of your team are starting to back off and things are, you need to start taking reflection, because, you know, they get their direction from their leader. And so a lot of times we don't even realize that we're running dry, and we are. And so,
Yeah.
is that what you were asking?
No, absolutely. No, I think you're spot on, because we get so caught up in the emotions, we don't even realize we're depleted.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There's signs there, right? There are definitely signs there. But in the workplace, to your point, the leadership begins to leak, right?
Yeah.
It begins to slow down. It only happens when you're there.
Right.
And I would see that myself, because I set a standard for myself, and I set that rhythm and that drive, and I push the team or encourage the team to come along on it early on. I pushed the team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I would go out of town for whatever reason, and everything just kind of stagnates. Right? Or I go on vacation, everything would stagnate. That was a warning sign that something was wrong. Something's right. And I needed to make some adjustments and make some corrections. But when you do find that partnership with your team,
right,
and then you can start getting, and I know we don't like to use other words like synergy and all that, but when you start getting that kind of like an internal combustion engine, right? It starts developing its own power source and starts moving. It's huge, but it starts with having the vision, right? We talked about that. And I've talked about that many times with many people. Is if you don't have a vision, you have no hope of getting that synergy built within the team, because everybody's pulling different directions. Everybody's doing something different, going a different way, right? And very few people come to work with the intention of wasting their day, right? With the intention of not being productive. Everybody wants to do what they're there to do, and they want to be acknowledged for doing it well, and they want that, right? Not necessarily want to attaboy, but also just want that well done, right? Feeling. So when you're depleted and your leadership starts to leak and starts to sink in just a little bit, it's not always a hammer to the head. Sometimes it's a very subtle thing that shows itself outside of work before it's in work.
Right.
Because in work, you're wearing a mask, right? You have that facade. I am the leader. I am the strong one. I am the one. I have to be that solution and that thing. And I don't dare let my team see me weak, or let them see me questioning myself or any of that, right? Which is unhealthy, by the way.
It's hard to say. To me, it doesn't make sense when leaders are like that. I have never been called into a leadership position such as yours, but in the positions that I have worked in leadership within companies and things, I've always tried to be very transparent and tried to be the encourager.
Right.
Try to be the one that keeps us on task and things. But in the same token, I've always tried to just be transparent and tell them that, if we're not working together as a team, we're nothing. It makes me a better person when I'm helping you, and it makes you a better person when you're helping those around you, and we're all coming together, and so vanity, unfortunately, to me is a huge risk whenever you step into leadership. It's very easy to fall into vanity because you want to be seen as the strong one. Just like oftentimes in families, whoever is the head of the household, whether that is a husband or the wife, the mom or whatever, whether it's a single family or a full family or whatever, we're only human.
Right.
And it's okay for dad every now and then to say, you know what, I'm on the last leg here. I need some help. I need you to pitch in. If mom is the one, whether it's a husband-wife team or whether it's a single father or single mother, it doesn't matter. It is okay to let your kids know that you're human. And yes, you want to be the strong one, and you want to be the leader that you know you're supposed to be in that home. But at the end of the day, you also need to just be a little transparent and just be honest, and just let your kids know it's okay
Right.
that you don't always have to be so incredibly strong that you don't want anyone to see your flaws, and see that you could, you know, we always just tend to always want to be so much more. I know this is sidetracking just a tiny bit, but when my mom was going through her cancer treatment, I'm the oldest child in our family and everything, and my little brother, he had to provide for his family and everything. But with everything we had going on in our lives and stuff, I had three businesses, and then you worked outside of our business, our little theater that we owned in town. And I was trying desperately to always be that everything for everyone, whether it was trying to be your everything, our boys' everything, even though they were teenagers and doing their own thing. I still had major, major responsibilities at home, trying to pitch in to help mom, keeping her at all of her appointments, plus running three businesses, plus, trying to pinch in to help dad where mom couldn't before. And I was trying to be something that, for everyone except for myself.
Right.
And so that dryness that you're talking about, my well was way more than dry, but I was trying so hard to be this big, strong, courageous daughter that was there, that was going to make everything perfect at the end of the day for everyone. And I think in the end, if I'll just be truthful and honest, I was failing miserably.
Right.
Because I was just pulled and torn, and it felt like a piece of taffy, when shaping taffy. You're talking, fascinating process.
It's painful.
Painful, doesn't it, if you're the taffy? Yeah. But I actually feel like at that point in my life, I was a piece of taffy, and trying, our responsibilities at the theater and trying to keep the doors open for that, for our community, because we have always been extremely community driven and wanting to offer things for the young people and things in our community. So just everything. And why did I feel like I had to be the one to do all of that? Why did I feel? So I get what you're saying, and it was vanity. A lot of it was just vanity.
That's where I was going to go earlier. I was like, there's vanity and hubris, right? Says that I have to be one. But I think it's more than that, right? I think there's a mindset that from a child we're taught we have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, right? We have to be the solution. There's no one we can depend on except ourselves, right? That kind of mindset. Which really a couple of weeks ago, the episode on the reset button, that's what that was all about, right? And I think that comes into play here as well, because we do need to reset. We have to understand that true leadership, authentic leadership, it is about vulnerability. It is about transparency. It is about saying, you know what? I'm going to bring my best, but our best is when we all bring it together. Right.
Yes.
That my best by itself isn't going to be enough to do it. And I'd worked for a lot of people over the years that they felt like they're the only one that had the ideas. They're the only ones that have the solution. They're the only ones that can make something happen. And no matter who or who did what or what was said or what happened, they were always the ones that didn't want to come in and undermine it because they wanted their own thing, or step up at the end of the day and say, I did that, when you had nothing to do with it.
Right.
And they were successful for a while, but teams really didn't want to give them their absolute best. So you could only get what they brought.
Right.
Vicente Renal, he's the CEO of Ingersoll. He would say all the time in meetings when he was in town halls and you was talking one-on-one with him about the power of and, that multiplier, right? That, it's not we're going to do this or that, right? Because you can do this and you can do that. So we're not going to do this or that. We're going to do this and that. Right.
Simultaneously.
And when you brought them together, the way it would multiply and it would grow.
Right.
And and I've watched that that company. In fact, I stock with them, so I really watch them.
Right.
Just go from from $4 billion to their over $40 billion net cap.
Right.
In a very short period of time.
Right.
Right. And it's because that
and mentality
multiplying
right.
Right. Versus that poverty of I can do this or that.
Right.
I can only do this because only up to this point because I can't risk stepping out beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
And at GD, right, that's we grew almost $1 billion annual because of that mindset.
Right.
And then when that changed, right, and the leadership changed and they kind of changed that got into more of the other and started shrinking back in. Now, they're going to be lucky if they do $350 million.
Right.
And it's all because of a mindset shift, which changes everything, the whole dynamic of everything that is there. And you go through some of the signs of that you see within the leadership teams themselves, not just within those companies. I don't know because I know them.
Right.
But
right.
I've seen them. You see it everywhere in the news and as you interact with people, and it's easy to see those that are hungry and pushing and driving and encouraging that next step and who are pouring out. And those who are doing that and taking the time to refill, right? Mm-hmm. So this week I get the chance to sit down with Larry Kerr and visit with him.
Right? That's fantastic.
One of my Eagles, great guy. He's going to be in
such an amazing man.
He's agreed to get together whenever he loves. We're going to talk. Hopefully we're going to do some recording for him.
That's fantastic.
But Larry, watching him through his career, right? I would see those seasons where he was, because he was always pouring out. He was always giving, right? He was always encouraging, that kind of thing. But you could see when he was taking time to get refilled and when he was just purely running on adrenaline, right? You can tell the difference in the two. Now, we can look around us and see that in everybody around us. Where we don't see it in is ourselves.
That is so true. And that is so true.
And unless we're open and vulnerable enough with our teams to give us the feedback we need, and whether that team is your team at work, your team at home, wherever it may be. Right. Unless we have that vulnerability, we're not going to get that feedback that we need. Mm-hmm. And everybody is going to see us struggling. Everybody's going to see us, I'll use the word failing in our leadership, not for lack of effort, but just for lack of output, right? Because we're on fumes, and everybody will see it. And I've sat with executive teams, and we're discussing different managers and different things, and they're like, yeah, but this one they just they need to do this and they do that, and they're just not going to get there. But never go say anything to that person.
Why don't they reach out to help that person? Help pull them out of the pit that they see them fall. Do they want them to fail?
And,
I mean, honestly, no, they do. They want them to fail. I don't think that we really want people to fail, but we also don't want to put ourselves in a state of putting ourselves out there to where we're even more vulnerable than where we already are ourselves.
Right.
And we're like the last thing I need to do is take on one more thing. Well, that's okay, but don't knock another person down when you see them falling.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Reach out and pull them up.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you. It's not okay.
It's not okay?
No, it's not okay to say I don't want to take on one more thing, because as a leader, we have to.
Well, I know that, but I'm just, and you're right. I mean, I didn't mean that. I'm just saying a lot of times we do take on too many things, though. I know from experience. I know from putting so many grapes on my plate that they were spilling off into the floor, and I felt,
I think we do that because we pick up we pick up what we're supposed to pick up.
Right.
But we don't let go of what we're supposed to let go of.
Right.
In a healthy environment, we're going to build our teams. We're going to build our family. Mm-hmm. We're gonna understand that there's a season for this, and that's going to be mine for a season.
Right.
And then I pass it off to somebody
Exactly.
else. Right.
The next successor. Yes.
And I don't pick up that next thing until I've passed this on. Right. I've had more than one conversation with leaders about, okay, let's talk about your succession plan.
Right.
Well, I think so-and-so will be ready. Well, have you talked to so-and-so? Are you working on them to get them ready?
Are you working with them?
Do
Yes.
they know what they need to do? Well, no, but they will when it's time. Now it's time now, right?
You need to be working with them, side by side with them, training them and getting them ready to step up into their next phase in life.
But it takes time and energy and effort on your part, which you don't have if you're wasting all your time in pointless meetings just for the sake of meeting.
Oh, right. And I hate that companies, they take their leaders, their everyone in the company, they take advantage and they take them hostage. They take their time hostage and don't let them really be able to put value in their day where it needs to actually be focused and things that really that matter. They just, well, let's talk about this meeting later, in the day, and let's come back and revisit what we talked about here. Well, you're not going to talk about anything different over here than you did here. You're wasting my time.
Right.
I mean, I know there's times that it is necessary.
You need the face-to-face, but so a company, here, case in point, a company that I was with, we had, business review meetings, right? And you'd have them monthly, you'd have them quarterly, you would have them, right? But you would have them at 4 or 5 different levels,
right, of leadership,
and then yes. But it was the same leaders in each one of them, right? So you're hearing the same thing, and you're just regurgitating the same slides in a little different format. So,
oh my goodness.
So the decision was made, well, we're going to eliminate some of these meetings. We're going to do away with all of these. We're going to put these in, or this one in. Well, that one came in, but then that one quickly grew into 10 different levels that are all of the same thing. Well, you still have these other meetings because you have to get ready, right? You have to have the little meetings to get ready for the big meeting, to get ready for the big meeting. And then, and then when you're not working on those, you're working on the slides for them because they're all the same slide, but different. And right. So you spend all this time tweaking and doing all that. And when are you actually freaking leading?
Right.
Right. You're not.
You're not, because you're in a room,
right,
at a computer or at a table with a bunch of other people who are supposed to be leading.
Right. So you're neither pouring out into your team,
right,
or refilling yourself.
I sort of say, or being poured into.
You're running through this little vicious cycle,
right?
And your leadership then is just leaking like a sieve,
right?
And the signs are there for everybody to see and everybody to know because they can be seen, right? And there's some of them are there's 3 that are very subtle, but everybody will recognize them as soon as you talk about them, right? Irritability.
Right.
I mean, think about yourself, right? As my husband and wife sitting here, right? We know your ability with each other.
Oh, definitely.
Right? When we know when we're tired, when we're exhausted, when we feel like that we're being taken advantage of or being ignored or taken for granted or whatever it may be.
Right.
Right. And we just suddenly become irritable.
Mm-hmm.
And we become irritable about those little bitty things.
The things that don't even matter.
Yeah, because I mean, what are we doing in years of doing counseling with other couples and stuff and in ministry? What we learned is the thing is not about the thing.
It's always about something else.
The thing's about some other
deeper,
thing,
something much deeper
that you don't want to deal with, right?
Mm-hmm. But we make it about the tiny things because it makes us look as if we care.
No, that's actually pretty good, right? And because we know we have that much energy we can give.
Yeah.
And if we have to deal with the real thing, then that's going to mean we have to really focus on what it is that we need to, we have to set this other stuff aside to focus on this.
Right.
Because our best times of working on our relationship have been when we shut everything off and we just went away.
Right.
Now, we've been lucky that a lot of our fun and adventure and things in life we want to do the road trip versus flying or whatever.
Right.
We have a lot of windshield time together.
Yes.
Tim Atchison, right?
Mm-hmm.
I used calling my work wife.
Yes.
Right. Tim and I, we have a great relationship.
Yes, you do.
Joel Suspansky and I had a great relationship
Yes.
because we spent a lot of time in the car together,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we had that opportunity to talk and engage and without all this other noise and stuff coming in, which you don't always have. I can't work with a plant manager who needs extra help if I'm sitting in a meeting working on a slide.
Right.
Or, what my favorite thing is whatever plant I was at, I was working on something for another plant.
Right.
And then I would go to the next town or the next state, and then I'm working on the stuff for the plant I just left.
And I remember telling you, why in the world are you traveling so much if you're never even investing in the plant that you're actually at? Right. You're always having to have conversations with other plants. This is not making sense to me.
And the idea is you're there, so they're gonna, so you're gonna care. They'll know that you care, but they know you don't care, but they don't want to.
Exactly.
You came in, you went in the office, shut the door, and you're on conference calls in time till the time you're there. You go have lunch, maybe dinner that night, do one plant tour, but then you're flying out somewhere else. Right.
And it was never purposed. No, that's just
the way it works out, right?
That's what you had you had
somebody else owned your
someone else owned your itinerary. Yeah. Yes.
So, but in those environments, it's easy then to allow the little things. Right. That I have the time to focus on. I'm going to blow up on this. I'm going to blow up on the fact that you didn't sweep the back parking lot, right? Whether you didn't move this to there. And not instead of the real important thing of why you even think it was important to sweep the back parking lot.
Right.
Right. Because that's more the culture change that requires me to spend time and talk about the vision, talk about the expectation and develop those plans for what it is, or even just let you have a chance to give it back. I was fortunate in Fort Worth facility, getting Eric Massey, incredible leader, very, very organized. Right? In fact, there's some of his tools that he brought in that I borrowed his tools because they're great leadership scheduling type tools.
Right.
But he would come in and here's where we're going, so we're doing it. It may not always be as fast as you wanted, right? But it was the right pace to do it without breaking everything.
Right.
Right. And you would see that impact. And then you didn't have all the drama. You didn't have all the stuff to invest in. But that then made it easier to focus on the small things.
I sort of say it's probably opened a lot of avenues for you to be able to focus in other areas.
Yeah. And most of us don't have that controlled
capability,
organization. Right. Like he would bring to the table. So admire what he brought there, right? And what he's doing. He's got a great future ahead of him.
Right.
Because he can grow off that and but he's got to make sure that end doesn't take the place of the real relationship and dealing with the real issues.
Right.
Right. So anyway, the small things then begin to feel like big problems. And we become far more reactive than we are reflective. Right. It's easier to blow up on something than it is to sit back and figure out why it really went wrong in the first place.
Right.
Right. And your team then begins to worry about how you're going to react instead of actually doing what you need to do.
Right. So
I would see it all the time in executive meetings and in board meetings. The focus became more on the story and how the board or how the CEO was going to react. It came more about telling the story than it did about what the real issues was and what we're really doing, right? And we would ignore often, it's every company around the world, right? You become so focused on the personality and managing, which sadly a lot of the ones that get to that level, they're only at that level because they were the loudest ones growing up, right? So they're very reactive. They're very, no emotional intelligence in a lot of
right.
And there are a lot that are, but there are a lot of them that are not, and they're very much being controlled and driven by stockholders and different types of boards and different things that that are focused on this. It really isn't one thing that's not necessarily what the company is focused on or should be focused on.
Right.
It's a short-term thing and they're reacting to that. So then you're trying to manage how you're going to present where you are and what you're doing without having to spend all your energy now just babysitting their emotional regurgitation.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm talking about here. You're far more reactive than you are reflective.
Right.
Because these guys, they're running, they're going and they're pushing and they're trying to manage all this other stuff as well. And most of them aren't taking the time to refill. And because they're not refilling, it's easy just to blow up. But if I blow up, let's put energy into it. Then you can use that energy then to do something else.
Right.
Right. And it's not healthy.
I sort of say there's no good that comes from that.
Yeah. But I think one thing it really shows up in is that, you become very short with people that you normally enjoy being around. And, when your best friend suddenly is getting the brunt of your challenge, then there's a huge problem. And I know that myself, a lot of times, it's easier because I have an honest relationship with them and a vulnerability with them. It's easier for me to let my guard down and remove that mask and snap when I probably shouldn't snap, right? And I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. We were off on vacation with the grandkids, and the grandkids were just doing that which grandkids do, right? Which was being kids, enjoying life, and they wanted this and they wanted that and they wanted this and that, and just stupidly, I was drained and I felt like I was pulled 1,000 different directions, and I just snapped. And, of course, we had a lot of conversations afterwards about it. And, I wasn't aware of it really, but even when the kids were growing up, that was my thing, right? I would push and run, drive until I didn't want any more. And then I would just snap and then I'd walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And never really deal with it, never really have the conversation.
Say things that you wish you hadn't said.
Yeah.
Or just not necessarily things that you wish you hadn't have said.
In a manner.
And just very short and very pointedly, instead of the normal kind manner, which a person normally responds whenever given a situation.
Right. And there are people that I really enjoyed being around on, and then suddenly it's like, wham.
Right.
And hopefully you have a relationship with them. Let's go back to Tim Atchison, go back to Tim. Right, or even my brother Tim. If I'm in that mode where I'm suddenly just short and I'm snapping about stuff, both of them were quick at saying, "Hey, what's going on? Mm-hmm. Stop. Let's talk about this." Right? Because we have that permission with one another.
Right. Can I interject just for a minute?
Yeah, so we can.
I remember one time, I won't say whose wedding that we were at, but we were at a wedding once, and the bride, she had just had a lot going on her plate. I mean, a lot. And I won't go into detail, but everyone could see that she just had so many responsibilities other than just planning a wedding. And I guess she happened to and she's generally the most kindest, most loving person on the planet, honestly. Just very, very kind and always just very docile about everything. And out of nowhere, she was very short, and her sis said, "Sister, no one likes it when you're ugly." And immediately, but they had that amazing relationship that she realized immediately, because her sister said it in love.
Right.
She didn't say it, she could have easily snapped back and said, "Hey, you need to just chill," or
you're not my wedding now.
Yeah, she didn't do that at all. She just reached out in love and said what she did. And immediately the bride just took a very quick inventory And she was back immediately to the loving, most sweetest, kindest person. But everyone has a breaking point. Come on, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Everyone, like we talked about, there comes a point where we become drained, where we have nothing left to give.
Right.
And so I get what you're saying there.
Okay, so irritability, right? Easy to realize. The next subtle sign, apparently those others were not quite so subtle. Well, they really were, because you're going to ignore them if you're not careful. Is numbness, right? We're functioning, we're doing the job, but we don't feel it at all, right?
Right.
And I went through that many times over the years, right? Especially running around just so exhausted. And my body typically reacts by getting sick, right? From traveling. And I'd come home, you'd know I was that kind of at the end of my rope, because I was kind of cold
Every single time
that I normally wouldn't do, right?
Yeah.
And then, part of that too is, you hear something really good, and instead of rejoicing and celebrating, you just kind of almost didn't even register that good happened, right?
That's a really sad place to be. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's common. It's very common. I mean, every leader that's listening to this, if you're not there now, you've been there. Right. And it seems like the higher you climb in the ranks, the pressure changes, and we're not really prepared to deal with that pressure. Right. Because we don't develop the intimate relationships and that vulnerability with people that allows us to have that conversation that we need with them. Either we climb through the ranks, or everybody we know is now reporting to us, or they're beneath us, so we can't have that conversation with them.
Right.
We're so busy working, we don't have that relationship with anybody outside, and we most definitely cannot go to the ones above us and say, I'm really struggling with this.
I know.
Right. I've had some really good leaders, Jerry Spires, Larry Kerr, Scott Pryor, those guys, that I could go to them and say, look, I'm really struggling with this. I don't know how to do this, and I need your help. And they would help me and not judge me for it.
Right. I think those are also a huge, they're the type of leaders I also feel that whenever you're struggling, that they notice. I believe. Yeah. I mean, every single one of those men, I believe that they're the type that notice, and they don't just notice, they are the one that will come and have that conversation with you. How can we make this better? What can I do to help? What can I do to help pick up some slack, or how can we steer this in a different direction where you're not feeling so pressured? And we need leaders like that. We need leaders to step up in that manner, instead of being those leaders that whenever they have a fellow peer that they see struggling, or even someone that's above them or below them, and they see that they are struggling, instead of them being there to help extend that hand to help pull them up, they're, trying to put their foot on the other person's head.
Yeah, I remember Scott Pryor one time. I was walking down the hall, and he was like, "Hey, can you come talk to me? So let me finish this." And so I finished what I was doing. I went to his office, and he's like, "You need to slow down." And I said, "What do you mean you need to slow down? I've got to get this stuff done." He says, "Yeah, but the most important part of your job is your people."
Right.
And right now you're going from this to this to this to this to this, and you're not really engaging with your people. And I said, "What do you mean?" I ask them how they're doing. I do all these. Yeah, but are you really asking them how you're doing? Are you really there while you're talking to them? Have you stopped working on what you're working on while you're having a conversation?
You weren't present.
I wasn't present, which really is one of the signs of numbness.
Right.
We're not sad, right? We're not sad, but we're very focused, but we're not fully present.
Right.
And that's more than just engaged in the next task.
Right.
It's like I'm just okay, whatever.
Right.
In the mornings, I get up at 5 in the morning, so I get up at 5 in the morning. I'll do my workout. I'll do whatever I'm going to do. I'll make it through the day. I'll engage with people, and I'm going to come home, and I'm just going to sit there, and I'm just going to be present.
Right.
And again, it's kind of like a zombie walking around, and it comes, you're exhausted, and you're right, and you've lost sight of the vision because you don't have a leader that's helping you with that.
Right.
And you're so busy on the task that you haven't developed your own vision to drive you. And that's why for years I really worked with people to help them understand that it's important to be passionate about what you do. It's important to find thing that to find that thing that empowers you or speaks to you and bring that into whatever you're doing.
Right. Bring the thing that brings the spark of life in.
Yeah. Because me, it's teaching and coaching, leading, right?
Right.
So I find that in whatever role I'm in, I find a way to do
mentoring.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I've got some great relationships over the years. I mean, people I can talk to that I've engaged with, 30 years ago.
Right.
That you still I watch their career and see how them grow, and whether I had anything to do with it or not, I take credit for it. Right? They're really.
It's been wonderful getting to watch them grow.
Yeah. Gentleman named Mitch Trace, right? He's out in Seattle now. In fact, there are two guys out in Seattle I've worked with over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Trace, hired him in as a supervisor, and just watched him grow, and he became a really great friend. Mm-hmm. And then now, he's running some international marketplaces for this company, and is just doing an incredible job.
That is phenomenal.
Jacob just hearing it, right? Another guy. Jacob was an intern that we had, and we had him over our house for Christmas and different things, and even to this day, right? He and I, we may not talk, but once every 5 years. Mm-hmm. But watching his career, and when we talk, it's like we just talked.
That's wonderful.
And you remember Eric, right? Sean.
Yeah.
Met him at an airport, hired him as an intern.
That's right.
And incredible young man, right? And just watching his career and watching him still continue to grow. And I would love any of these guys. I would love to have on a team anytime, anywhere, because I know I could trust them.
That's right.
Right. Because they were willing to engage and give and be vulnerable and learn and grow at the same time I was trying to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they're really good guys. Another sign that you're probably depleted is your jealousy of other people's wins.
Oh,
right?
Yes.
Now, that comes in a lot of ways. If you're typically jealous because you're insecure, that don't confuse that with your suddenly.
Right.
This is when these are behaviors that are outside your normal behavior.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Suddenly, that manager or that supervisor, then now you begin to resent the fact that they're being acknowledged because, hey, I'm pouring all this out, and that clown only works half the hours I work, and yet he got or she got recognized or whatever it may be. Somebody gets a breakthrough on a platform, especially like what we're doing.
Right.
I watch some of these people, and it's like, I think I'm going to start a podcast. And then next thing you know, within 2 weeks, they've got
thousands of
followers. You're like, oh, the crap. Right?
Exactly. You're like, how did they do that?
I know, right? And so instead of cheering them on, saying, that is crazy.
That is so cool.
Right?
How can I follow in your footsteps?
You pull back instead in your life.
Feeling as if you're less than, and you why even try? Yeah.
Because we begin to compare ourselves with other people. And the truth is, we're not in competition with anybody but ourselves.
That is right.
We have to manage and lead ourselves before we can lead anybody else. We have to set our own visions and goals before we help anybody else set their own. Right?
That's right.
And we begin to wonder why is what I need now. Why, they don't see how faithful I am. They're just overlooking it. They're ignoring me, and they're acknowledging that Twitter head over there.
Yeah.
Right. And we have all been there.
We all struggle with it.
And again,
if we say we haven't, we're lying.
Right. Because we're all human. To manage yourself, you must first be honest with yourself.
Exactly.
Right? But this is behavior outside of your normal behavior. Right, when you suddenly just start doing this, which is why I've been fortunate to have you, right, as my partner in life, because you're really good at recognizing and speaking those things, calling those things out, and most of the time in a loving way, right? Sometimes you can't do it in a loving way because I don't want to allow you to.
Right,
you have to blast through the wall.
I'm sorry.
Fine. No, it's good. I needed that.
I'm sorry. So for those times,
but if you didn't, I wouldn't hear. Right, because I'm really good at insulating. I've become, as a child, I became really good at hiding inside my own skin.
Right.
So
through no choice of your own.
right, but
I mean,
eventually
that was your coping mechanism.
it was, but eventually it became a choice of my own.
Oh,
Right,
right.
and I had to learn to learn that. Right, so
Exactly.
which you were good at that and helped me with that. Um, so my thing is, if we're talking through those, and anybody on here, anybody who's listening, if you can say, "Yep, that sounds familiar," to even one of those scenarios or a variation of it, understand this: that doesn't mean you're weak.
Right.
What it means is you're human.
Right. It just means your gas tank needs filled up.
Yeah.
That's all it means.
And because it needs filled up, just like you would stop at a gas station and then put out your credit card and fill your tank, you can refuel yourself.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
get-
It's called
um,
reset.
But before you do that, you have to understand that you cannot pour from an empty cup.
That's right.
Right? Now, in the Bible, we read about the different apostles that said, "Hey," or we read about the prophet back in the New Testament, and we told the widow, he says, "Go pour, gather all the vessels you can and start pouring in a little bit of oil, fill all these vessels." Right? But that was a miracle. Doesn't happen every day.
Right.
Most of us, they'll have seasons where you're going to pour beyond what you have, but most of the time, no. When you're empty, and you've got to refill.
That's right.
And you have to be very, very intentional about it.
Or diligent, yes.
Diligent, right? So there's some rhythms that I use, right? One, I'm trying to keep that song in my head, right, in my heart, that I kind of go back to, and it's almost a coping mechanism the same way any traumatic victim would do, right? Where they have that rhythm, that ritual they go through to get them back centered.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one is really about solitude with God.
Right.
Right. Not just devotion performance, right? We've all done our devotion where we say, "I've got to get this done today." And you're guilty of that when you show up one day and say, "Oh crap, I'm 4 days behind. I got to get caught up." And you go rush back and
I'm notorious for that.
Right.
But that's because I will not do a devotional with generally,
Right.
which I have not been doing recently in my writing journals.
Right.
But if I do a devotional, I try very hard to fill in the journal as I've read it, not days later, which I've been guilty of most recently. But I know what you're saying.
But how have you felt recently? You felt empty.
Oh, I
recently,
definitely
right?
felt empty.
So it's,
those have been struggling,
right?
and things.
So it's that same thing, right? Doing it
Exactly.
just for the performance of it doesn't get you that.
No. It has to be your heart has to be behind it. Yeah.
But sometimes it is. And that's what I've been trying to do lately, is go out early in the backyard and just kind of just sit and hear the birds and listen to the nature, right?
Right.
So sometimes it's just sitting. Sometimes it's just being. And then if you've listened to me very long, what you've heard me say is just breathe.
Right.
Just breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Just sit there quietly. Read. Don't turn on the music. Don't turn on no Bible app, no journal, no anything. Just be quiet and let your body come back down to its
That's
rhythm.
right.
Because we get so caught up in the stimulation of it that it takes on a life of its own, and suddenly this frenetic energy inside of us just takes over, and we lose that inner peace, and we lose the peace that is impossible for the refilling to come.
That's right.
Right. So
I mean, you can go to the gas station, right? You can be on empty, you're rolling in on fumes. And as long as you sit there, don't get out of the vehicle, turn that little knob to open that gas tank and pull up the little pump thing. If you don't put forth the effort, you're never going to be able to get down the road.
Yeah.
So it's vital. Not only, you have to remember that for you to be your best self for you, it's worth the effort.
Yeah.
So you can be your best self for you and those you love, those that you're leading.
Yeah, those you care for. Right?
Yeah.
So I always go back to this. I used to have this lawnmower, and this lawnmower vibrated something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we start getting low on gas. You take the cap off to refill it. And as long as it was running, I don't care how much fuel I had in it, it could have like this bubble on the top of it that bounced back and forth. And no matter how you tried to pull gas into it, you could not get gas to go down in it because of that bubble.
Right.
You had to shut it off for that energy, that movement to stop before you could fill it up with gas.
Okay.
Well, our lives are that way a lot of times.
Right.
Right. We get so agitated and moving around internally and emotionally and mentally and everything, that refill can't happen.
That's
Right?
right.
Because it can't break it. You can't break it through that chaos. It can't
That's
break through that,
true.
right? That kinetic thing that's happening. So sometimes it's really just about getting quiet, breathing, and just being present.
Don't ever even have to say a word.
Right. Not saying anything, right? Because a lot of times the greatest encouragements, they don't come through words that we hear, right? Sometimes it comes just because in that stillness, we felt seen again.
Oh, yes.
We felt seen by God. We felt, whether you call it recentered or whatever you want to call it, right? That's what happens. And for me, what works for me is because I hear and know in that moment that God is looking at me saying, "You are my beloved."
Right.
And that's enough for me.
Right.
Right. I mean, everybody's going to have something different, but it will always start with just getting alone and being silent. And what are we the worst at in the world? Being silent.
I think some of us are terrified of just being alone too, just making the time too.
And we're 100% afraid of silence.
Oh yeah.
I mean, radio's always got to be on, TV's always got to be on, right? You always have to have a conversation going. You can't sit quietly with somebody in a room without filling it with noise, right? You can't sit quietly with yourself without filling it with noise because you're afraid of what? You're afraid of who you're going to meet.
Exactly.
Right?
You're afraid of who you, yeah.
But at the same time, we can't get back to that core of who we are if we don't get rid of all of this noise.
Right.
I wrote back, we used to have that youth journal, that newsletter that we did.
You think?
And I remember there was a message that I wrote, an article I wrote for that one time, and it was talking about, that life was like a carnival, and you're walking through the carnival and you got everybody yelling for your attention and buying for this and buying for that.
Yeah.
So much so that if you're not careful, you're chasing this and chasing that. And your whole goal really was just to walk through to get to whatever your destination was.
Just to get to the cotton candy.
But you couldn't
Right.
because of all this other noise.
For all the carnies. Yeah.
And life is just like that.
Yeah.
Right? No offense to the carnies, because I was one for.
I know you were.
But their goal is to get your attention enough, whether it's to make you mad, happy, excited, whatever, to get you over there and get your money.
Right.
Life is that way. It's about getting you.
Yes.
Everybody wants something from you.
The
There's
distractions.
and you have to intentionally silence everything and allow yourself to be refilled.
Mm-hmm.
And I promise you, when you do that often, that's enough. Right? Honest journaling. I suck at journaling. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm horrible at it. I'm so sporadic. It's crazy. I bet I can go in there and I have 3 journals in my closet, and I probably haven't written in one in 3 years. All right. And unintentionally, it almost starts within a day or two of when the last one was I stopped. So if I stopped in August 4th of 2021, I'd probably pick it up again August 6th of 2024, right? And start writing in it.
Well, that's about those seasons that we referred that
is.
we've always talked about.
It is. Now, you're really good at journaling. That's good.
Well, I'm struggling right now, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But honest journaling, you don't need Instagram captions, right? You don't need, you need honesty. You need, this is where I'm struggling.
Just to be raw.
Honest with yourself, vulnerable with yourself. And sometimes you write that letter, those things that I can't say out loud. I mean, when your mom passed away or when your mom was dealing with cancer and you were just so angry that you finally had to go out in the backyard and just be honest and raw with God. God, I'm so angry at you right now.
I was extremely angry. And my mom is the one that had to tell me I needed to be honest and just talk to God and tell God how I felt. And honestly, truthfully, I didn't even realize how angry I was at God. I just remember Mom had felt prompted to call me that day, and for whatever reason, you and the boys were away from home, which never happened. And I remember feeling so agitated because I never ever had a moment to myself, and I was feeling so guilty having those handful of hours by myself. But my mom, she called and I asked her, of course, back then with the cancer and everything, On weekends, my dad always stepped in and stuff. So anytime I got a phone call, I remember that day just feeling guilty because I saw the phone, I saw that it was mom calling. And even though I was terrified and something had to be wrong for her to be calling because she usually knew how busy we were on weekends, as much as, I was struggling with guilt of even answering the phone because I just was so beside myself, so empty. And, we were talking and she told me, I feel like God told me to call you today. And I was like, well, I'm fine. And she's like, sis, you're not fine. And I was like, I'm fine. She's like, well, sister, I feel like God was telling me you need to find some time today with him and just get alone with him and share with him your heart. And I told her, Mom, I don't have anything I want to talk to God about. And that would, how guilty I felt letting those words slip out of my mouth, because not only was I'm married to a minister, but I had my own ministry and my own rights and women's ministries and things, and was just struggling so hard to keep my head above water. And I remember just telling her, I don't have a single thing in the world that I want to talk to God about. And she just got really, really quiet. And I said, I'm sorry if I've disappointed you. And she said, you did not disappoint me, sister. But I am telling you, I had a visit with God this morning while I was in the Word, and he told me that you need to share your heart with him. Now, God knows what's in our heart. He knows what we're struggling with and things, but he wants us. He needs us to come to him. And we have to have that act of coming before him and not always expecting him just to know what's going on inside of us. I remember, I told her I have no intentions of talking to God today, Mom. I don't want to disappoint you. I don't want to make you angry, but I don't have a single thing that I want to share with God. We were going through a lot of horrible devastation in our lives. And I won't go into that, but that was completely separate from what Mom was going through, and Dad, being forced into retirement early and all of that sort of thing, to be there to help care for Mom, and just feeling like the weight of the world was on our, not on just my shoulders, but our family's shoulders. And I remember laying back. I was actually sitting on the front porch at our house, out in the backyard, and we lived right one door down from being out of the city limits. And I laid back on that porch, and Mom said, well, just tell him. If you're angry with God, talk to God and tell him that you are angry. And that went against everything I had been taught as a child. I thought you were not allowed to get angry with God, to be angered at God. And so I remember just leaning back. We lived across the street from a beautiful church that had these magnificent gardens and a beautiful pond and a waterfall that splashed down into the pond. And I remember of all things, laying back on that porch and just looking up at the ceiling. And the first thing that's running through my mind is, how the old porches have the bluish green ceilings. We had that. And there's all these cobwebs up there. And I'm just thinking, oh, great. That's just one more thing I need to do that I don't have the strength to do. And I remember just looking at those stupid cobwebs and thinking, wow, this is my life. This is my life. I've come to a point I never in my entire life thought that I would do. I am angry with my Creator, and it's not supposed to be that way.
Yeah.
And I remember just out of nowhere, just this blood-curdling scream that sounded like it came literally from the depths of my soul. I just started screaming this scream that I thought for sure that ambulances or policemen or whatever were surely going to come racing down our street at some point. But it felt like I must have screamed this scream for at least a good long minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I lost track of the time. I truly did. And I just was so, when I screamed that scream, like this weird emptiness. It was almost like when you're scraping the barrel of ice cream, peanut butter, or whatever, and you think that you've gotten everything scraped, and then you see that there's still just a tiny bit left that was in the lid, and you think, maybe I should go ahead and scrape that out too. It was like everything had just been completely cleaned. And this peace that I cannot describe to this day just literally washed over me. I've never experienced a peace like that in my entire life since. But if I ever in my entire life as a human being wondered if there was a creator, that day there was no doubt in my imagination or my mind that there was not a creator, because this peace that washed over me, and it literally felt like this warm, saturating water. Just, you know how when you're a little child and you're playing that game where you lightly run your fingers down someone's hair, see how light you can do it, but it just tickles and just makes you feel fuzzy inside, or as a little kid, that's what it was like that. And it was this love that just embraced me and held me for the longest time. And I felt seen. And that's all I needed.
Absolutely.
At that moment, that second, and it wasn't just a moment and a second, it was a serious season in our lives. And I remember just not waking up, but getting up from there. I don't know how long I laid there, but I remember getting up and feeling such expectancy and such hope and such aliveness and filled and loved and
nothing changed, but everything changed.
Exactly.
Right? Because when you acknowledged it, you could surrender to it.
Yeah.
And when you could surrender to it, then you weren't alone.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where this journaling, that's what it's talking about.
It's true.
Right? There's things you can't say.
Mm-hmm. That's
you can't bring yourself to say because it means you're weak, because it means this, or because you just don't, you don't get angry at God, or you don't do this, or you don't do that. And it's very cultural.
Right.
But you can't say it out because you can't accept it. Because you can't accept it, you can't deal with it. And you have to accept it before you can never deal with it, right?
Right. I mean, and here's the great thing about that is you can pour yourself into work. It's extremely important that you get it out, that you write it out. There is a cleansing when you write something out. If you're terrified that someone is going to come and they're going to find your journals and, oh my goodness, I don't want anyone to see the ugliness that I'm struggling with or whatever.
Write it.
If that, burn it.
Yeah.
Do that might sound bizarre or weird to you, but if it's a ceremonial thing, if it needs to be some form of a ceremonial thing, like, you know, build a evening fire with your kids, your grandkids, whatever. Go out in the yard, burn trash, whatever it is you need to do. Just throw it in they don't need to know what it is. Just throw it out there when you're out there cooking hot dogs or whatever.
But if you can't burn it, if you can't say it, write it down.
Yeah.
Right? So you can write it down safely, right? And it can be something simple. It can be like you. God, I feel forgotten. Why? Why? Right?
Why is this happening?
Right. Or it could be, you know what? I am so tired of cheering for everyone else, and I just feel like I'm over here all by myself.
Yeah.
Right. Or, man, I sure wish I missed the fire I used to have.
Right.
Because what we do know, and your story, I think, is really key to it. God can handle our honesty.
Oh, yeah.
God needs,
He's got no shoulders.
but he needs our honesty because he's not released to do in us what he needs to do as long as we're holding on to it.
Because he's a gentleman. He's not going to force himself on us.
Yeah, I mean, we can fight the battle, or we can let him fight the battle.
That's right.
We can work for the healing, or we can let him do the healing, right? But he's not going to wrestle us for it.
That's right.
And same as like children, the same with anything in a job. I can try to force it and do it all on my own. I can defend myself, or I can let God defend me.
That's right. And it's all about that free will that he gives us as well.
Yeah. And sometimes, though, You just need to see it on paper so you can finally surrender.
That's right. That
Which
is
then opens
so
the
true.
door for somebody else. Now, I think one of the most important things you can do, and this is very hard, hard for the strong person to do, is let somebody else encourage us.
Right.
Right? Like your mom calling saying, do this, you're like, I don't need to do that. Well,
No.
but we do need to do that, right? Because everybody, I don't care who you are, I don't care how strong you are, right? We need other people that we can go to for advice.
And I will add to what you just said. I have often thought through the years, because Mom will be gone 20 years in this next year. And so I often wonder what my life would have turned out like if she had not made that call that day, if God had not prompted her, and if I would have lost her before I was able to deal with the anger.
Yeah.
You know, would I still be angry? Would my life be a life of devastation and constant wonder what my life could have been if I was only able to give up the anger? And
it could be a life of bitterness. We've seen it years and years of ministry, right?
So
people don't let go of the anger and unforgiveness become bitterness, which becomes their identity. Then it begins to affect everything. It takes on a life of its own.
That's right. And we talked about that last week, actually, where I told you that I had had an opportunity to visit with two different gentlemen at different points in our ministry and got to see God. And God had used me, gratefully. I'm glad that I was able to have been that tool in their lives, that God used me as an instrument, as of encouragement to them and to help them. He would tell me words to speak into them. I'm so grateful that I did that, because back then I was so dang shy and it was not my normal thing. And of course their wives were standing there. And I remember sometimes I would say something to these men and these women would just be standing there
waiting how they
like the looks that would come on their faces, like, he is not that, like he is totally opposite of that. They would give me these crazy looks. But then as the weeks, went by, and God would just have me say, okay, you're supposed to tell him this. You're supposed to tell him that. You're supposed to tell this couple together this.
Yeah.
And this transformation, this healing started happening in their lives because, God was burning the dross. He was changing things. He was changing their hearts up because, they were just willing to finally surrender the hurt, the anger, the bitterness,
That's true.
And God healed their marriages and made them beautiful.
But they had to surrender to it.
Exactly.
Right? And no matter how strong we are, we have to have somebody we can go to. Right.
Yeah.
We have to let other people speak over us. Right. We have to let our friends pray for us. We have to let a podcast, right? Somebody's note or a song, something that reminds us of our worth, remind us of who we are, but we have to be open to it, right?
That's right.
We don't have to be strong all the time. We don't have to be well all the time, right? We don't have to be the one that's always giving. There's times that we have to acknowledge that we're not well. We have to acknowledge that we're weak at the moment, right? Because it's only when we're weak that we can experience God's strength. It's only when we're thirsty that we can take a drink of the water of life and understand and feel and understand who God is in us in that moment, because we're not relying on ourselves.
And on another note, it's extremely important that when God places those beautiful nuggets in your life, those encouraging nuggets, those beautiful people, those souls that see you're not your normal self and they're trying to pour into you and they're trying to encourage you, don't reject them. Welcome in open arms. I remember when we were moving last year, man, we had so much on our plates, trying to be here in Oklahoma, trying to be in Missouri, yada, yada. And our young, beautiful, gifted and talented realtor, Callie Peoples, she wrote me one day, and I guess she could see, wow, that I was just so worn thin. And she just texted me and just said, how can I pray for you today? And wow, talk about volumes.
Yep.
I've never in my life had a young person, a young 20 something, young, beautiful, vivacious woman of God, just out of nowhere, just reach out to me and say, "How can I pray for you today? How can I lift you up before our Heavenly Father?" Wow, I could have said, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine."
Which would have made her question any time that she felt led to do that in the future.
Yeah,
Right?
she would have been scared to.
You could have stopped her, but more than that, you stopped yourself. You would have stopped yourself from receiving that which you needed.
Right.
Which a lot of us as leaders, we do that. I'm strong. I'm good. I don't.
No, I'm good.
But
Yeah.
I do need that. Right.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like about Tim Atchison. Right.
Mhm.
When he's hurting, he's hurting. He'll be
But
honest. He'll be honest. Right. And we're good about
That's awesome.
praying with each other. Right.
Mhm.
But really, I guess what I would like to do is, just stop for a minute and just ask everybody, just breathe and be honest. What would you say to yourself if you weren't pretending to be strong right now? What would you say to yourself? Write it down. You don't have to speak it out loud. Now, speak it out loud if you can, but be honest. And if you can't write it or you can't speak it, pray it.
Right.
Sing it. Somehow get it out.
Verbalize it.
And then let somebody else in. We were not created and we're not designed to be alone.
Right.
Right. We are pack animals. We are herders.
Right.
And I don't care the most powerful lone wolf, right? And if you can't see me, I'm doing air quotes. It's out there.
Right.
Needs other people. You can't do it on your own. You have to have somebody you can engage with, somebody you can talk with, somebody you can. And if you're not going to do that, you're eventually you're either going to shut down someday, or you're going to implode in some dramatic fashion, some unhealthy fashion,
yes.
or you're going to have some serious health impacts from it.
Yeah.
Right. But the one thing I will promise you is you're not going to understand or experience the fullness of living the life on this beautiful world, right? Unless you do that.
And it's important for us to be well and for us to be whole, which is, exactly why I feel that God called you to this. It's about the whole leading well and living a whole life.
It is holistic leadership. That's what it's all about.
That's right.
So encouragers, listen closely. You're not valuable because of what you produce. Your only value is in who you are. You, even you, Tammy, me, everyone, you deserve to be reminded of the fact that you're valuable because of you, not because of your product. Right?
That's right.
So please, I implore you, take your time, refill your soul. And then when you're ready, then come back and begin to encourage again.
That's right.
Right? The longer you allow yourself to be dry, the longer it will take to refill.
True.
But if you allow the refilling process to be part of your normal rhythm, then you can avoid that dry desert, right? You can refill as you're giving out, and you can have that balance, and you can have that health that you need within your relationships, within your life.
Amen.
Right? And then when you come back, then when you speak life, you will speak life.
That's right.
And you'll be able to do that because you will have remembered where your life has come from.
That's right.
So, with that, thank you. Thank you for joining us here today on Lead Well, Live Whole.
Well,
you have any closing?
All I would do is ask, I know that this isn't your norm, but I feel completely compelled to have you to pray for everyone that's listening, for those who maybe shared this program, for you and me, for all who are in the room right now at this moment. I appreciate that so much.
I'm never going to pass up an opportunity to pray.
That's right.
Our most precious Father, we thank you. We thank you for the reminder that we are not alone. We thank you that you are the water that we need. You are the bread that we need. That you're just that quiet voice sometimes that just speaks life within us. Father, help everyone everyone who hears, everyone who is part of this program, Lord, to just to pause, just to breathe, just to silence the noise, just to allow us, Father, to just hear your breath. Help us to walk with the reminder that we are exactly who we need to be and what we need to be, and our value is in our relationship with you. Our value is in our relationship of being us. And it's not because of our work, it's not because of our titles, it's not because of our paycheck, it's not because of our relatives or our influence or anything. It's just because we are. Thank you for your healing. Thank you for your power. Thank you for your balance in our lives. Thank you, Father, for just moving and working on our behalf. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. That was amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. All right, so once again, thank you for joining Lead Well, Live Whole. And until next time, this is Michael and that's Tammy Sirmon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Lead Well, Live Whole. If this added value to your journey, share it with a friend and subscribe. Until next time, lead those you serve well and live your life whole.